With a yo-ho-ho, it's TaleOfTheToaster. Welcome to another video on Inazuma 11 Victory Road, the worldwide beta test demo. At the time of recording, it is day 2 of the game, and at the time of release, I would guess it's the morning of day 3, as this is the first one I'm going to put some actual editing into. Not much, but just I don't want to play the game at the same time as going over these topics so I don't get distracted. But these are going to be my honest thoughts on the demo so far. The good, the bad, everything in between. So please stick around. I'm making Victory Road videos pretty much every day at the moment, and even when it's not daily, it'll still be pretty frequent. So do stick around on Planet Tale of the Toaster. So obviously want to start on a positive note, and the majority of it is going to be positive because I'll come to the conclusion at the end, but the game's really good. Maybe we're a bit biased, you know, we haven't had a brand new Inazuma 11 game in over 10 years. Even counting official English releases, it's still been 8 of them. You can split hairs and say, oh, well, the Go Galaxy fan patch came out in 2021 and you, TaleOfTheToaster, a developer on it, played it in 2020. But it's like, let's not overcomplicate it. It's a brand new Inazuma 11 game, and we honestly, at times, thought this was never going to happen. The game has had such a rocky and complicated development, but we are in, I would say, the final stretch. My predictions for the game's final release, and remember, this is not based on evidence, this is just a guess. My personal prediction is that the final game will release on December 5th, because it will mark not 10 years, but exactly 11 years since the release of Inazuma 11 Go Galaxy. It's even good for you Dutch viewers because you'll have Sinterklaas to take the day off for it. But yeah, if it releases on December 5th, it marks the 11-year anniversary since the last mainline Inazuma 11 game, and it gives them enough time to work on the rest of the game, because clearly the gameplay is pretty much there now. So what do I want to praise about the gameplay? Well, first of all, I think the community is fairly unanimous in saying that the tension system is a lot better than the individual player TP of old. And even the people who don't like it may still be in the process of getting used to it, or, you know, they went into the game expecting it to be like older Inazuma games, and it can actually really stand its own in that sense. But when we were in the Go games of Inazuma, and you gained the ability to do infinite special moves with the form of Armify in Chrono Stones, it fixed an issue in Go 1, because Go 1 you could barely use your special moves at all because you needed your fighting spirit up all the time to succeed, and then do one of 4 things. But Armify, while it fixed the issues of Go 1, it then set us up to a point which was followed up by totems in Go, where special moves were happening in pretty much every interaction, and they were becoming a little less special, in Akihiro Hino's own words. So what they wanted to do for Victory Road was make them more valuable, and, you know, make the cost of use a lot higher, and if you are using one, it is a commitment. Additionally, something I really like about the players is that you can only have 2 moves at a time. You can choose from 6 different moves in total in the real game. The demo only has 2 moves per character at the moment, but at most you can only run 2 moves at any given time, which means out of the 3 main categories for a field player, it used to be in any previous Inazuma 11 game, you could always do, you could have a shooting move, you could have a dribbling move, and then you could have a blocking move. So there wasn't that much point in having different roles for your forwards, for your midfielders, and for your defenders. You were basically throwing. If your midfielders didn't have at least 1 shot, defenders, you could put a long shot on them. And likewise your strikers, they were just going to have a blocking move anyway to take the ball for themselves. The game centered around the forwards, and the point of this, both the tension gauge, which is now shared across your entire team. If your midfielder does Heaven's Time, then your striker might not be able to afford a White Hurricane anymore. I don't actually know if White Hurricane is in the demo. My Bylong is not high leveled enough, but he's on Dragon Drive for now. But this is great because you're not using like no special moves per game. You're still on average, I would say, doing something like 7, 8, 9 in a match. Again, that's based on a day and a half of playing it. Maybe it will get a bit more when my players are higher leveled. But yeah, it makes you truly think about whether or not to use a move. And again, in the previous games, even if you weren't armorified or something, if you were level 99, then some of the cheaper moves you could use at basically no cost, and even some of the mid-power ones, you'd have to try really hard to run out of them per player. The downside is that it makes the players on the bench a little bit useless at the moment, but I think that's a trade I'm willing to take. So, to move on to another point, the matches are also a lot shorter than they used to be, and that is overall a good thing, because matches in Chrono Stones were way too long. They took on average about 22 minutes, and that was a game where you need to do the same match over and over to get certain rare item drops. Now Victory Road is designed to be an online multiplayer experience, and you don't want to make it so committal that you're blocking out 30 minutes of your schedule every time you want to do one match, especially a game where you need to grind to level up in the demo specifically because we don't have the story mode yet. So the fact that matches are shorter, it encourages you to do best of threes with people instead of just doing one match. It means you can slot a few more in without getting bored. I think maybe the downside is that it's a lot harder to score a goal than it used to be, because pretty much the first shot you take on an opponent's goalkeeper will not go in unless you super over-level them. But generally speaking, to get like a 3-0 win, you've probably taken on average maybe 9 to 10 shots. Possibly a little different depending on whether you got a breach, a critical hit, more on that later. But overall, even though Go Galaxy made the matches shorter than Chrono Stones, they were still long. You can look up any video I've ever made on Inazuma games, especially my revisiting save file ones. I think Inazuma 1 and 2 matches were about 12 minutes in real time. Inazuma 3 was a bit longer just because they added in special tactics, which uses up a bit more of your actionable time. Go was a bit longer. Chrono Stones was even longer than that. That was officially too long. And then Go Galaxy, they shortened it, but it was still like the second longest matches, or at least level with Go on. So now, I would say Victory Road matches are longer than that of at least Inazuma 1 and 2, especially because the game has special tactics, but they don't waste like any time at all. They're completely balanced now, and you can actually use them without them just being ban-worthy. That's a point I didn't even write down in my list of notes. But yeah, special tactics are not going to have to be banned in multiplayer, because they don't just give you a free win when a guy's standing in front of your goalkeeper about to take a shot, and there's no March of the Penguins that just stuns the whole team. The tactics are actually involve some decision making, and it's still on you to play well to actually get the most of them. It's like if every special tactic was Grand Plan, except now Grand Plan is a built-in mechanic of every match, which also makes sense. But yeah, we were on about matches being shorter, and I would say overall they're a little bit longer than Inazuma 1 and 2, but that's a good thing, because you'd have so many 0-0s if they weren't at least that long, but they are so much shorter. I actually, I uploaded a video playing against Suplexy the other day, and we finished a match, and the video was only 10 minutes long. Like, that was even shorter than the average Inazuma 1 match, and I think that one was overall a bit of a fluke. They're usually going to be a bit longer than that, but I was really impressed with it. The removal of spirits and totems at the moment is, for me, generally a good thing. They're not in the demo, but spirits could still be in the final game when it fully releases. I'm not a big fan of fighting spirits or cash-ins personally, but if they manage to balance special tactics this well, I think I can trust that they will manage to balance spirits. I just don't want it to be in a position where your player either has to have one, or if you can't give spirits to players, you only then use characters from the Go games to succeed, and I don't think we really need totems at all on anyone other than Ozrock. So that's the first couple of good points. I've still got a few more, but I've got to start doing the YouTuber things, because I never do these in my videos, but now that we've got so many new people watching content on Victory Road that's only just come up, I do have to remind you, I'm making Inazuma videos all the time. Even when I'm not making them on Victory Road, I'm still doing level 99 coverage in Go Galaxy as well, and occasional one-offs. So please do subscribe, and you will be alerted as soon as a new video comes out. You can even hit the bell if you want. That's my first and potentially last call to action. But other things we want to praise, the translation is overall pretty good. There's occasional issues or creative decisions with some of the moves. Like, doesn't really matter that much if they're going to change Illusion Ball to Illusory Ball. That could be a creative choice or just an error, and either way, it's fine. But there are some strict downgrades, like Lightning Sprint losing all meaning and becoming Lightning Bolt, and then you either feel one way or the other about Spiral Draw from Arian Sherwind, that in the dub was called Whirly Whirly, alongside other very silly but funny move names like Easy Breezy, Zed Zag, the Hyper Swiper. Yeah, Arian had a consistent move naming theme in Go, but a lot of people didn't like it. I personally really did. I thought they were very in character for him. The only real exceptions were Zephyr Shot from Mackwind and Heartbeat from Aggressive Beat, and we know that Heartbeat is unchanged. They changed this one to Cyclone Sprint, which is the most drastic out of all the other ones. Every other move name that changed feels like it might just be a retranslation or an error, or just a slight modification to make it better. But Cyclone Sprint is a straight swap, and it will make some people happy. Not for me, though. But I was mainly this is in the praise section because I was trying to talk about the overall translation of the game, and it's practically without any errors. So far, I've not found like a single typo. Everything has been done with care and respect to what already exists. Like, even some of the silly ones like Goopy Gloopy Goo will still be there. Goldie even gets her own title now of Goopy Gloopy Girl, and all of the dub titles are specific. All of the bios are brand new. Like JP's is completely different to any bio he's ever had in the past. The only like error I've found outside of the moves potentially is there's like a droppable item about the Legend of Endo Mamoru, which they were supposed to change to Legend of Mark, but they just left it as Legend of Endo in English. Like, if that's the only error I can find in the translation, they're doing a good job. They've clearly found their mark. I think the animations look really nice. The graphics are not like super HD, but it's because they're mainly importing models from the Go games and upscaling them, and I would much rather have the game exist in 2024 than ask them to remake everything from scratch, and we'll get the game on the Switch 2 in about 2028. So it all looks plenty good enough. The English commentators in the game as well, they should have hit me up to be one, but they're they were a bit of a worry for some people. I know a lot of people put the game into Japanese without even listening to the English commentators, but they hit a really good balance, because whether you're playing in Japanese or in English, Inazuma 11 Strikers, a lot of people complain about the commentator saying the same phrases all the time. This time they've got two commentators, and they sound a little similar. Granted, it took me a while to even realise there were two different ones. And most of the recordings I've been doing on mute anyway, so I haven't gotten to listen to it that much, but I've heard a few clips on Twitter, and in general, they're just, you can ignore them if you want, or put them in Japanese, and that also suggests that the in-game voice acting, if they make dub voices for the characters in the future, you can probably swap that to Japanese as well. Not sure about changing move names to their Japanese translations. I don't think that will happen, but personally that doesn't bother me. I know a lot of people want it. I will personally be using the dub names either way. That's just how I am with it. But yeah, I think they've struck a really good balance of making the commentary both unique in phrases, like the one about Royal Academy throwing down steel bars just as an off-base reference. But it's not annoying, and that's more impressive than if they tried really hard with it and flopped. The last thing I'm going to say in the praise section before this video gets too long is the mechanic of castle walls with defenders is really cool. It did take a lot of learning. Like, when I played my first couple of matches, I was putting them everywhere, and I was like, "Why? There must be some restriction here. Why can't I just put like 3 or 4 castle walls all over the place with no detriment to me at all?" That's because they weren't working. It hadn't clicked with me that the castle wall, it's not really a new mechanic. It's more just a replacement for the ability to drag your defenders along the screen. Like in the first 6 games, if you wanted a defender to get in the way of the ball to do a shot block move, you'd have to move them there. But there is no effective way to move them in a home console when you're mainly controlling the goalkeeper. So the castle walls is just directing those defenders where to go, and if they happen to get in the path, you're now more rewarded for it because if you do it too late, you often have to read where the ball's going to be before you put the before they're actually going to take the shot. Like, you have to preempt whether somebody's going to go for a shot chain or not, and how many walls you want to put down, whether you want to put them in multiple places or not. But once you think of it as just telling your defenders where to go, and also if they don't make it there, it won't work, it suddenly feels super intuitive, and I really appreciate that shot blocking becomes a thing regardless of your defender and their moveset. Anyone can do it, which is making defenders so much more valuable, especially when they're in defense of the goalkeepers, who are low-key the main characters of the match now. Your goalkeeper is probably the single most important player on your team. They are your health bar, effectively. But yeah, the game so far is bloody good, but it does have some flaws. So we'll run through a few of those, because after all, this is a global beta test demo. It is released for the purpose of fixing those things and balancing it before the real game drops. So that's kind of the entire point. I went over a few of the things already, like the changes to certain move names, and the fact that with matches being the current length that they are, draws are still pretty likely at the moment, but we still need to get to a point in the demo where everybody's on equal footing levels-wise, and then we can truly gauge how skill-based the scoreline is going to be. It just does take a long time to score, even if you're outplaying your opponent, though. Sometimes you can get timed out, but it goes without saying, the demo's still got a fair amount of glitches at the moment. I haven't really encountered more than one in my own personal experience, but I also have like a day and a bit worth to go off. If I'm looking on Twitter and Discord servers and stuff, I've definitely seen quite a lot of glitches. Some of them, well, a lot of them are probably in tandem with the fact the game does get laggy when you're playing with other players from outside your own region. And I can imagine the real game will probably do a bit more geo-restricting with who you can actually play. At the end of the day, the test exists to see how it would work, see if the game can hold up to Japanese players versing off with French players, for instance. It can't really manage it, to be quite honest, but it was worth a try. And then the lag seems relatively okay when I'm doing Europe versus Europe, but the lag in turn creates a lot of glitches on occasion. And some of the glitches might not even be lag-based, but they've got a lot of time to fix those. That's why there's an open feedback form. If you've encountered a glitch, you can even submit them to Level 5 at the link in the description. There's even a nice little box at the end of the form, or maybe it's a different survey, but there's definitely an official survey at the moment that asks you, what are your favourite Inazuma streamers? So if you get to that bit, be sure to give me a mention. We really want Level 5. I've still yet to acknowledge the Tale of the Toaster channel or the TXM one in any capacity yet, and it would be lovely if we could get in touch with them at some point. So if we can bring the name to it, that's excellent. But yeah, so we'll put faith in the lag to be combated by probably a bit more geo-restricting, and the glitches to just be fixed over time. You know, if this was Pokemon Violet, then everyone would be memeing on it right now, but because it's an open beta from a much smaller team, everyone's generally been pretty accepting so far in helping Level 5 get used to it. So, what are some flaws that might stick around? I think the game's ease of entry is pretty high. It might, like, I lost multiple matches in a row. Like, I'm hearing most people started winning for the first time on maybe like their third try, sometimes second if they're lucky. It took me about 6 tries, and granted, a lot of the time I was accidentally playing against the level 6 team instead of the level 2, and I've never once had a evenly ranked battle yet. But even as a seasoned veteran of the series, it took me a lot of learning. I can imagine it could be difficult for people who've never played one before, but at the same time, I've still seen a lot of tweets from people who are Inazuma anime fans who've never actually played the game, and now they're trying a game for the first time, so they're still familiar with the characters and the ideas, but so far most of the people I've seen have been picking it up pretty well. But we're all dedicated people. I can imagine the story mode will ease people in a lot more easily than just a CPU match with a tutorial before every interaction, so fingers crossed the ease of entry is one they can ease up on, but it is secretly a good thing because having more mechanics makes for a more complex game. The previous Inazumas, overall, weren't that complex, and the meta mainly came down to just team building, having the best optimal people and strategies and such. So this is going to be a lot more open, and I can't wait to watch some real tournaments. I've heard a few people complaining that midfielders are definitely the least useful type of player, because apparently, I haven't really done this myself, but defenders can pretty comfortably long pass straight to your forwards and just skip the midfielders entirely, and then you can take a shot. So if that's true, that's fair enough. Maybe we can work out either a nerf to the long pass, or just maybe make midfielding moves use up less of your tension. I don't know, there's options there. I've still been using them plenty at the moment. I guess my other thing with midfielding is that maybe this is just me, but a lot of the time when I get into a guy versus guy interaction, like if I'm walking up to another player, I'll often forget who's got the ball, and I'll immediately think I'm in Chrono Stones, and I'll jump to the left or jump to the right to try and stop them from advancing, and hopefully take the... Or I'll mainly assume that I'm trying to get past them, because that's what I'm more used to from the games. Generally, the old games, I'm winning a lot more than I'm using. So every time I get into one of those, I keep trying to dribble past them, and a lot of the time I don't even have the ball, and I just let them straight past me for free. So maybe if it was a bit more obvious who's got the ball, it might be a good reminder to the player, but also maybe that's just me. So I think ultimately the main problem with the game is thankfully something that doesn't affect the gameplay whatsoever, and it's more a demo specific thing anyway, but the matchmaking right now is not great, because not only am I quite consistently getting matched up into Japanese players that have a lot of lag generally, there's been no real attempt to do level scaling and put you against teams that are around the same level. You know, I've been using a lot of my day 1 and day 2 time rendering videos to go out for you guys, or just being ill like I have been for a lot of today. And I've been trying to balance both teams instead of just purely concentrating on one, having like one high level group of people and then a lot of players that are still at level 1 or 3. But a lot of people got a level advantage really quickly, and then the better they know the mechanics, the more likely they are to win in ranked, and then they'll get even more experience. And the people who are currently struggling a bit more don't have a great way to catch up. The game will consistently match you, if you're a lower leveled player, into somebody that's a lot higher. Like my first match when I was level 3, my opponents were level 10. I tried it later when I was level 11 and I was getting placed against level 18. And the levels matter so much in this game. It is genuinely a case where a significantly better player will not win unless their levels are at least in contention, because that's, you know, your goalkeeper is the main character, and if you are significantly under-leveled, that's when they start beating you in one go, and every dribble interaction you're going to lose a lot more often. So if you do get matched up against higher-leveled players, you don't just get to decide yes or no, you're stuck doing it. That's why a lot of people DC and rage quit, and now Akihiro Hino has already addressed they're doing some countermeasures soon for people who keep disconnecting, but they give you an opponent you have no hope of beating, and then you're just expected to play it out. And pluses and downsides, they still reward you very heavily for a loss, but they also reward you so much more heavily for a loss than they do if you just play the AI teams, that essentially the quickest way to get your players to the cap of level 30 in the demo is not by playing against the AI and winning, or matching into evenly matched opponents and hoping you can beat them on skill. The way you're going to get to level 30 is by going into ranked matches, losing them, spend 10 minutes of your life just getting owned, and then you will be rewarded for it, and you'll only start to collect wins, I feel like, once you actually reach that level cap. Once everyone is at level 30, it will feel pretty great, but also people who then get the demo new and haven't tried it in day 1 are just not going to have anyone even to face off against. Like, are we going to see some brand new level 3 teams get matched into a level 30? I dread to think. So I really want to see some adjustments to the matchmaking. I know there's not like a huge player base compared to other multiplayer online games, but You know, instead of just picking the first person that comes up, I would appreciate it if the game waited a little longer to try and find someone that's more on your level, and then you can hope to win, and even if you do still lose, you'll still be as heavily rewarded as you were in the past, so that would be nice. I think the last one on people's minds is the breach mechanic, which is just a funny way of saying critical hits. The goalkeeper has a save mechanic where the goalie can get a crit 10% of the time and always block, but more often than not, you're going to be seeing the 10% chance for a shot to get a crit and breach, and just go in regardless of a shot's strength. I'm perfectly okay with critical hits. Critical hits have been in the Inazuma 11 series at least since Go, possibly the entire time, and I'm not a big hater of RNG mechanics. I like seeing it in Pokemon on occasion. In VGC it keeps things alive, even Nuzlocke, you play around the crit, quote unquote. You don't play around the quit unless you're me, who only ever did one in my life. But the difficulty comes in when, if it was just a flat 10% critical hit rate, then that's kind of fine. But it is something that's going to decide a lot of the matches, because goal scoring is so infrequent in these shorter matches with really buffed up goalkeepers. So one crit is often going to decide the match. If it's just 10% and the goalkeeper has equal chances of getting it himself, then that's kind of fine. But the fact that with passive skills you can increase your critical hit rate, your breach rate, I think Aphrodite's got something where if you're at low tension, then your breach rate goes up by 25% or something. ShaviLF has a good video breaking it down, so I'll try and link that in the description. I haven't personally had enough experience with the breach mechanic yet. I think I want to see it stay. I don't want to see it removed, because I like crits, but I'd prefer it stay, you know, maybe flat 10%, and you can at most buff it up to 15. Even then it's going to require you to pretty much always have a player that buffs your breach, and then everyone's just got a 15% chance anyway. So it feels like something where you're throwing if you don't increase your breach rate, and it might decide the gameplay a lot. So they may need to tone that down. I think 10% as a number is fine. It's the fact that you could increase it that creates some imbalance, but we'll see where they go with that. For now, I think this video has been long enough, so overall my opinion on Victory Road is brilliant. I can't wait for the story mode. Everything they've showed of it so far looks really, really promising, and if this is how the gameplay works, we're in for a good ride. So thank you for watching. I've been TaleOfTheToaster. Please subscribe for more Victory Road content, and I'll see you with another one probably tomorrow. Bye for now.
An unfortunate loss. Well, that was one tough battle. They showed admirable tenacity.